Okay, so today we're going to talk about a war, but not the kind you're probably thinking of. This was a war fought without weapons in a place you'd least expect, the kitchens of plantations. And the most powerful weapon? It was food. This is the story of the Marrow War. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That one sentence tells you everything you need to know. This was never about scarcity, about not having enough to go around. No, this was a decision. A cold, calculated policy of hunger that treated a human child's life like a line item on a spreadsheet. You see, the deadliest weapon in the entire system of slavery wasn't always the whip. A lot of the time, it was served quietly, 3 times a day, in a bowl that was nearly empty. But this isn't just a story about oppression, not at all. It's a story of an incredible underground food revolution. It's about defiance and a kind of nutritional science that was literally born in the shadows. Let's start by breaking down the system they were up against. To really get the rebellion, you first have to understand what they were fighting. And this wasn't random hunger, or just poverty. This was the calculated hunger system, a meticulously planned campaign designed to break bodies before they even had a chance to grow. Yeah, just look at the cold, brutal math here. We can see from old plantation ledgers that owners spent about $9.76 a year to feed an enslaved child, but in that same year, that child's market value could jump by $100. The logic was as simple as it was horrifying. Keep costs as low as humanly possible to maximize profit. The human cost? Well, that wasn't even part of the equation. So what did that cost-cutting actually look like on a plate? For an adult, the weekly ration was just 3.5 pounds of salt pork and a peck of cornmeal. That's it. And for a child under 6 years old, a quarter of that. This was a diet engineered for bare survival, not for growing, not for strength, and definitely not for health. And that was exactly the point. In their private letters, plantation owners talked about how malnutrition and stunted growth actually created a more manageable workforce. The weakness wasn't an accident. It was a feature, not a bug. It was a tool of control built right into their food system. And the results? They were devastatingly clear. By the mid-1800s, medical studies showed that enslaved children were, on average, a staggering 10 centimeters. That's almost 4 inches shorter than white children. This wasn't just a number. It was the physical proof of a systemic assault on their bodies. But maybe the most powerful, undeniable evidence comes from the bones themselves. Archaeologists excavating slave cemeteries have found skeletal remains with these marks. They're called growth arrest lines. These are literal scars on the bone that show us there were periods of starvation so intense that a child's body just had to shut down growing simply to stay alive. It's a biological crime scene that time could never erase. But this is where the story turns, right here, from oppression to outright rebellion. Because against this system of calculated starvation, enslaved mothers waged a quiet, brilliant war. While the masters were tracking profits on their spreadsheets, these women were practicing a sophisticated nutritional science in the shadows. They figured out how to turn what was considered garbage into a lifeline. Mothers would salvage discarded bones from the main kitchen. They would crack them open for the fatty, nutrient-dense marrow inside, and they'd boil those bones again and again to pull out every last bit of life-saving calcium for their children. This wasn't just cooking. This was battlefield chemistry. And the fight didn't stop there. Mothers would breastfeed their children for 2 years or even longer, defying orders to wean them earlier. This was a direct act of resistance. It gave their children crucial antibodies, immunity, and nutrition that the master's rations could never, ever provide. It was a form of biological warfare against a system designed to make their babies weak. And when you put it side by side like this, it's so clear, isn't it? You have 2 completely different food systems at war with each other. On one side, the master's ration, a system of control. And on the other, the mother's rebellion, a system of pure resilience, built from bone marrow, wild plants, and a deep ancestral knowledge of nutrition. So what does all of this mean for us today? Because this war, it didn't just end with emancipation. The strategies, the foods, and especially the inequalities, we can still find their echoes on our plates right now. And the data is just startling. Today, 60% of the U.S. counties with the highest rates of food insecurity are in former plantation regions. That's not a coincidence. You can draw a straight line from the starvation by spreadsheet of 2 centuries ago to the food apartheid we see today. The patterns of that system are still with us.
But alongside that painful legacy, there's another one of incredible triumph. The ancestors who survived this, they didn't just endure, they innovated. They took the scraps nobody wanted, pig intestines, feet, all of it, and through pure genius, layering flavors and using preservation techniques, they transformed deprivation into delicious defiance.
And this, right here, is why this matters so much today. Soul food is not a relic of hardship. It is a living, breathing monument to their victory in the Marrow War. Every single dish is a testament to the scientific genius and the unbreakable will of mothers who refuse to let their children be erased by a spreadsheet. It is a heritage of resilience served on a plate. So the next time you sit down to a meal, I want you to remember this history. Remember that the flavors that have been passed down through generations are a direct continuation of that rebellion. Knowing this incredible science of survival, how does it change the way you see the food on your plate? Because it's so much more than a meal, it's the taste of victory.